Hello everyone. This video I will cover ACT38, the reading section, the first and second passage. So the first passage, if you look at the first passage, which is novel, you have to pay attention to who, what, and why, when, where. And also, I strongly recommend you to read question first. So while you're reading the question, you have to go really quickly, but at the same time, you have to understand what's going on and then underline important information while you're reading the questions. So number one, it can be reasonably inferred that which of the following events mentioned the first chronologically. And then second, so you have to think about the time when you read. And second, which of the following question does the passage not directly answer? Not directly answer. And then number three, main purpose of first paragraph. So then you go at the end of the first paragraph and you put number 3 here. And then go to number 4. First paragraph, narrator seems most affected by sequel. So number 4 as well, you put here number 4. And then number 5, information or following the narrator leaves except question. I strongly recommend you to do at the end because it takes longest time. So if you cannot possibly finish this one within the time period, so you can just skip and go and then go to the next passage, because finishing the whole test is more important than just holding on to this one question for longest time. Number 6, best summary, third paragraph, which is 39. And then you put number 6. Number 7, paragraph was deleted. Except, so 52, number 7. And number 8, reasonably infer the passage, the majority of songs and dances performed by midnight sun dance were created. So songs and then the trimmed 61, 58 and 61, 58, trimmed, 61, trimmed. So number 9, I'll put number 9 here. And then move on to number 10. Narrator indicates she is the last to enter the gymnasium before dance because. Okay, now let's read together. So the first paragraph, a few days after ice breakup, the seagulls returned. They arrived, the flock soared and dived as they searched the shallow shores for food. I paid them no mind. A few days later, while cleaning the area of beach in front of my house, I saw one large seagull lagging behind as others swiftly soared, twisted, and blah, blah, blah. But his drop was done with such ease and grace that he appeared to be dancing. How lovely! I thought, sitting on the old weathered log. I watched until my back started aching. Finally, I stood up slowly, put head of water in the boil, and lie down. And behind my closed eye, large white seagull danced before me. So it talks about seagull danced. So number 3 and 4, let's go. Main purpose of this one. As I read through, the entire the questions before, one of the impression that I got was something with a sun dance, right? So then maybe I was thinking main purpose of first paragraph is introducing the idea of dance, maybe. So maybe her dance and the seagulls dance and stuff like that you can see. Because of that, it is B for number 3. Number 4, the first paragraph narrator seemed most affected by seagulls dance. So she considered that as dance, but then whatever happened to like seagull was diving and twist, all that stuff. So that's why diving. So it's J. And next paragraph, the whistling of tea kettle jarred me awake. While preparing the tea, I hummed old song. It was the tune that often came to me, but not the words. Songs and dances are passed from generation to generation. I barely remember when I last had to learn new song and dance. So maybe the main idea of this one is songs and the dance passes from generation to generation. So then, in the next paragraph, the sun steaming through ruffled curtains turned to deep gold when I got up to reheat a pot of caribou stew. The bubbling stew filled room and blah, blah, blah. And I said, moving near the kitchen, I took position, female dance. So the dance is important. Then both the feet together, knee and then let rise and fall. And then I tried a many different position and change the song a little each time. All was done. I was breathing hard and resting my head, excited by my new creation. Number 6 says, third paragraph, summary of this one. She got new dance move. That's what the last sentence it says. She was tired but excited by my new creation. So that's why it is H. And then move on to next paragraph. On the third Thursday of the month, I am leading my long silver hair into a single braid and listening to the radio, and then announcer report a chilly factor of minus 60 degrees. Maybe only a few people will show up for annual village cooperation meeting this evening. When I arrived, gymnasium is packed and noisy. All the Abbey and elder representative who speak both Inupiq and English fluently is asked to open with prayer. First, he pray in English, report a word, and community serve follow. The middle 9 sun dancer build entertainment appeared last to agenda. So now one of the things that they're talking about is the midnight sun dancers. So this is like the part that it introduced whatever idea of the sun dance. So since I put the number 7 there, let's go to question number 7. Fifth paragraph were deleted. Then what to think about the connection to the next paragraph as well, because something that I can guess is how she's like talking about Sundance. So it kind of like introduced the idea of Sundance in a way. But then next paragraph, once I read next paragraph a little bit and then come back to this question. It is after 9 o'clock, people get restless, and dancers come forward, and audience claps as each dancer files by wearing his or her finest native garment, and blah, blah, blah. So it actually talks about dance in a way too. And then each wear knee-length mucklucks and gloves trimmed in fancy beadwork. So in this case, trimmed is not cut, right? Trimmed is like decorated, maybe. Trimmed in fancy beadwork with the thick bands of wolf and fox and wolverine. I am a singer, drummer, dancer, so enter last. I have chosen to wear a muskrat skin parka trimmed with the black and white reindeer strips. So that's another thing, trimmed. Maybe they put that, the decorate that too. So let's go to number 9 first and then go to 7. 9, so as I read, like, decorated, if you, try to find anything, maybe A is the answer for this one. And then number 7, so except A, description of reports presented by member of the village. It's nothing to do with the report. B, detail help old Abby's role. Yes, it talks about it. And then the suggestion of language spoken in the village. Yes, it says that 2 different languages, English and the other one. And then indicate the midnight Sundance. Yes, so the A is the one. And then move on to next paragraph. Line 67. Drumbeats fill the air as I struggle to my feet, pull on my gloves and walk to the center of the stage. My own high voice starts the story with a subtle movements. I thrust my neck in and out. The Wolverine tassels sway rhythmically. Arms gently flutter. Then I thrust my chest forward and soar heavenward. I float on freeze and on. Like it talks about the moves, right? And then like all the way, all the way at the end. And then like very last, like line 85, I became aware the thunderous applause that filled the room. My face goes hot and smile in happiness. The sound of my own people's applause fills my heart. Okay, so first thing happened in this case is, let's read one by one. A, narrator dance present for the President of the United States. I don't know. And the narrator watches seagull fly while cleaning beach in front of her house. That's another one that it gives in the beginning of the passage. And then C, narrator is given the parka that she wears while performing seagull dance. And then D, the narrator arrived at the village in Asia. So if you see one by one, one thing that I can say is this one, it takes, I guess, like, little bit more, I guess, time to think about, so that once you read this question and you don't know what to do, then I'll say skip and go. But then, in case of me, I remember that one thing that I remember the talk about parka was 2 different places. I remember the one was 60, I think 61. It says wear musclet skin parka, right? And then it doesn't give us that much of an idea, but the next one is 63. It says the parka is old, still beautiful. My old friend Lily made it for me when I was sent to Washington, D.C. to dance for the President of the United States many years ago. So then President of the United States has to be one before she actually wear this parka, right? So I'll say the answer has to be C. The narrator is given the parka. She got the parka first, and then she went to, United States. The president. And then number 2, not directly answered. This is another question. It takes longest time that you have to do, because you have to check one by one, and then evidence and everything too. But then if you cannot have anything in your mind right away, I wouldn't recommend you to do, right away. Just like, do all other questions and then come back to it later on. So case of F, who made narrators? Yeah, Skin Parker, her friend, right? And then G, how many years has narrator been dancing? It doesn't really say much about this. And then, okay, let's just hold it there. And then H, At what public gathering does narrator perform seagull dance? With a I guess it's from line 46, the gymnasium and all that stuff. And then J, no, J, what musical instruments accompanies the narrator's performance? It also talks about here that line yeah, so line 67, drum beats filled with blah 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 and all this thing you can see from there too. So it makes sense. J is fine. And go to number 5 again. Except question. It takes longest time. So I'll say you can do. I mean, if you don't have anything in your mind right away, I'll recommend you to come back to it later on. But for the sake of doing it, I'll just do it. Hey, size of her home. It doesn't say anything about it. Location of home related to water. Yes, it says right in front of the ocean, right? And then what she sleeps on and what she eats. Yeah, it talks about all these things, but size of her home, it doesn't really say much about it. And then 6, 7 done, 8, dances performed by the Midnight Sun Dancers was created by, I remember that, it talks about line 19, songs and dances are passed from generation to generation. I barely remember when we last had learned a new song and dance. Setting my cup on the yellow tabletop, my mind returned to the seagull. So thinking of this part, generation after generation. So that's why previous generation you can think it as. Number 10, last to enter the gymnasium, because she's the one that, perform. That's what it says in the something in the line. It says something in the last paragraph. I can't find the specific line. Because she's the main performer here, so that's why she entered at the end. That's why it said in somewhere. Oh, line 60 actually. I am a singer, drummer, and dancer, so I enter last. So, yeah, J. Okay, so again, when you think about these things, I'll say how you can possibly understand passage right is more important. Okay, I hope that you can, when you read questions, you can understand better of this. So let's go to number 11. It says main idea. 12, passage tone. Tone is you have to think about what kind of passage that we are reading. And then number 13, fifth paragraph. So go to 66 and then put 13. And 14, not reason of myself writers. And then 15, the best support which are the following as possible reason of for Morrison's obscurity as writer. Obscurity is not sure. Okay, so darken, and then so not 100% sure about why Morris is not sure about as a writer. And then it is used in line 2, social experiment. So line 2, social experiment. Let me put number 16 here. And then 17, In the context of passage, state lines 25, 20, 29, 29, go. And then question 17. And then 18, probably like kind of, and then 18, the best support which your following claim about Ellison, Hertzen, West, and then WPA work, except. And then according to the passage, the Renaissance of Harlem contained. Okay, let's move on to one by one. So description part, if you read, it says something about introduction to a Renaissance in Harlem, lost voice of American community, anthology edited by this person, contains material produced by Harlem-based members of 1930s federally funded writers projects. Okay, a few years after Americans slipped into Great Depression, the significant social experiment got underway. In 1930s, government policy makers conceived and launched an ambitious scheme they hoped they would both lift spirit of and provide weekly paycheck of thousands of unemployed Americans. Under this work progress administration, a smaller controversial program called Writers Project employed some 6,500 writers in 26 states, and WPA writers fanned out neighborhood towns and blah blah blah. So let's go to number 16 first. 16, it says social experiment, which is they try to do something that do with the, because it's Great Depression, they try to find the good writers and support them. So so morale, that makes sense, because in the passage it says spirit, which in line 5, spirit and advice weekly paycheck. That's line 5 is the exact part that you can pay attention to. And then next paragraph, one of those places where people told their stories was in Harlem. Coincidentally, just a few years before, a handful of WPA writers arrived in Harlem. This section of Upper Manhattan had been recognized by social observers as black capital of the world. The period would become widely known Harlem Renaissance. It was touted mainly as the most significant black cultural revival in our history and promoted by a very small band of intellectuals who had migrated to Harlem along with thousands of other people. While these men and women promoted the art and literature they created in Harlem between 1924 and 1929, the Renaissance they are created with starting was much more an intellectual movement. So line 25 to 29, why author has to put this one is, this is a Harlem Renaissance. Renaissance is basically reborn. So something that you can think about here is A, no, B, revival. Harlem was much broader based movement, usually recognized. Yes, it sounds right. And then C, many people involved. The Harlem Renaissance was primarily intellectual movement. Not necessarily, because C is kind of like trick in a way. Because if you go to line 25, while men and women promoted art and literature, they created in Harlem between this Renaissance were credited with starting much more than an intellectual movement, more than. So that's why C is using the intellectual movement, but that's for the sake of trick. And then move on to the next paragraph. The driving force behind the varied activities that made Harlem so vibrant in the 20th century were sparked by the massive migration of Black people from the rural South and Caribbean. Far-flung corners of the world began filling the vacant but plentiful house Harlem had to offer. Railroad reporters and domestic house cleaners and former tenant farmers and immigrants brought their music, their literature, and their stories with them uptown to Harlem. In the next paragraph, their stories, daily life, are still a vital part of the literature and music of Harlem. And then it's a legacy in between. This of the writers recruited to join WPA Writers Project took advantage of unique opportunity to write topical history of Harlem inadequately to create narrative snapshot of Black American unofficial capital city during one of the most important historical period. They created rare picture of life in Harlem Street in its beauty, parlor, market, and then blah, blah, blah. So it's basically daily life they're focusing on. The work of Harlem WPA writer such as Ralph Ellison, the Huston, and then West were still all writers in the late 1950s, which suggests that Harlem's golden era exists well beyond the 1929. So I remember those three names. Question number 18, it says this, line 18, best support which of the following. So 1929 is not the only time that, it's golden time for the Harlem Renaissance. It says something about 1930s. So 1930s, you can see from F and H, but then F is obscurity. Obscurity is like confusion. So nothing to do with this one. It's H, which is golden time, the golden era. And then move on to next. And then none of the story in Renaissance in Harlem were fictional in the strictest sense of the word. Many of them are literary versions created by writers who struggled to accurately tell the story they found in creative ways. So struggled accurately, yeah. So I remember one of the questions talks about Renaissance in Harlem, which is 920. It contains, we have to read through more to understand what it is. And then it says they often using the technique of fiction, such as setting scenes, using realistic dialogue, or incorporating flashbacks and testimony to significance. Three stories held for the writers who collected them. Many of these interviews became the raw material for later works of important fictions. For example, Ellison roamed Harlem, interviewing all sorts of people whose words found their way in the landmark novel Invisible Man. So let's finish 13 first and go back to 20. 13, it says, fifth paragraph, main idea of this one is, basically this paragraph talks about how these people, they actually made that story. So if you go to the beginning of this paragraph, it talks about, those three writers, right? And then that, they struggle, line 56, 7, it says, who struggled accurately tell the story they found in creative way. And then at the end that, the Ellison, that she actually did it in a way too. So if you think about one by one, A, those significant writer who collect them, no. B, writer projects. Oh, excuse me. Fictional, the strictly deep definition of no. Invisible Man, single most important. It didn't say anything about Invisible Man is single most important, but then that's like one of the example of the work that, whoever authors actually done. So C is like trick question. And D, many of the Harlem Writer Project went great length to tell. Yes, D is right because it talks about in the beginning, line 57, struggle to accurately, but then later on, it said they're successful because they threw this, the story Invisible Man as well. And then question 20 now, according to Passive Renaissance in Harlem contains Sample of some best fiction, yes. More than 45 selections, both famous and relatively unknown writers. I never seen anything like this yet. And then nearly 50 selection, previously obscure writer's writer, and then the handful of stories that have been dismissed by Harlem intellectuals, 1930s. Okay, if you read through here, line 54 first. While none of the stories in Renaissance in Harlem were fictional in the strictest sense of word, many of them literary versions created by writers who struggled. So which means they struggled, but then they did it. Okay, and then and also it says I think I'm not really sure about this one. I mean, I'll probably like finish this this passage first, and then I'll come back to this and then do the rest of the. I mean, number 20, because I think we need more information about this. And then next passage, despite the seemingly sacred mission, the political forces oppressed. The use of federal money to WPA project moved against sponsored New Deal Democrats. Suppose by this time, fund's project dried up, and according to the federal record, the WPA was effectively dead. By the time America entered World War II, thousands of WPA manuscripts were never published. These narratives and the body of work, most of them stories were stored away, left virtually untouched for decades. Harlem manuscripts suffered this same fate. Renaissance in Harlem brings together more than 45 stories written. Oh, this is the part. While some like Ellison eventually won worldwide acclaim, most like Vivian Morris remained obscure, invisible man and woman despite the literary promise of work. And then the story of Brother Lettuce first coined the phrase. Coined means defined in this piece. Okay, so now it's obvious. Question number 20 is G. Okay, one by one now. 11. 11 is basically talk about what Harlem Renaissance was, and then how this project went by, and then how they stopped. Right. So maybe B. And then number 12, tone of voice is positive, right? Admiration, maybe. Detachment, no. Question, no. So the only positive is F. And then number 14, not reason, demise of writer's project. No more fund, right? So that's why F, new fund, right? Non-exist. Okay, that's good. And political force, yeah. Harlem residents object. It didn't say anything about that. Politician, yes. So that's H. And 15, Morris obscurity as writer. So I see this. I remember this one from line 56. No. 76. It says that something about the state. It was body of work. The most of the story would be stored away, left virtually, and blah blah blah. So we can see that the answer is for 15 is B. State archive, right? Stored. And then number 19, WPA work except. So using dialogue, yes. Setting scenes, yes. Incorporating flashback, yes. Employ extended metaphor, I don't think so. I don't remember. So I think that's like something that I found where you can see is line 60. It says line 59. setting scenes, yeah, flashback, and all of those. But extended metaphor. Okay, that's it for this two passages. I'll continue next two as well. Soon I'm gonna explain two other passages. Okay, so we'll see you soon. Bye.